İstanbul'da ABD'nin resmi konutundayız. Ticari ve jeopolitik dengelerin değiştiği bu dönemde ABD-Türkiye ilişkilerini ele alacağız. Yanımda ABD İstanbul Başkonsolosu Michael Lally ve AmCham Türkiye Yönetim Kurulu Başkanı Emre Karter var. Consul General, Mr. Karter, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So, Consul General, let's start with you. Let's start with the geopolitical backdrop. We've seen regional dynamics completely shift with the outbreak in the war in Iran. From Washington's vantage point, how has the U.S.-Turkey relations evolved over the course of the war? Has Turkey's leverage or importance to the U.S. increased in this time period?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for the opportunity, and it's terrific. I think that recognizing the geopolitical framework that you put forward, from my standpoint in Istanbul, from our Consulate General's point of view, I think that we have really excellent connectivity with our Turkish colleagues. The U.S.-Turkish partnership is as strong as ever. Our Ambassador Barak has in constant touch with senior leaders here, working across all aspects of our relationship. And recognizing, I think, the really strong business and commercial ties that we have, we're seeing that really moving together as partners in the region. Ambassador Barak has said very clearly that he wants to have a good relationship become great. And we take that to heart, and we're trying to execute kind of on his vision. And that is specifically how Turkey and the United States work together, not only bilaterally, but also to work together towards regional issues. Mm-hmm. We're seeing that in Syria. We're seeing that in other areas as well.
Mr. Karter, I would also like to bring you on the same thread. How do you view bilateral relations in this period of escalating geopolitical risks?
Well, one thing to highlight is ever-growing importance of Turkey in the region from many points, from many vantage points, but more so from take security as one thing. When I say security, it is the security of supply routes, it is the security of energy, it is the security of travel. So all multinationals, including U.S. companies, are reevaluating sort of their options, not only in the region but globally. So, if anything, answering your question, I think that is the highlight is the growing importance. Mm-hmm. So. AmCham Türkiye is again, we are an umbrella organization representing more than 140 U.S. companies on the ground, have been here for many years. Some of our members are here more than 100 years, which has been grown and invested time and again into the country. And so I think the second part, maybe to your question, is the highlighting the Turkey's importance as a regional hub. And more than 1/3 of our member companies already pick Turkey under one capacity, and that can be manufacturing, that can be management, that can be internal services, mm-hmm. R&D, innovation. So we are making this, again, to these success stories to be transferred and to be known to the others, not only American multinationals, but all multinationals, to highlight this ever-growing, Turkey's importance for the overall foreign direct investment and to Turkey.
So, Consul General, let's look at numbers. Washington and Ankara have a long-standing goal of reaching $100 billion in trade. Looking at the net import and export data, the current volume is approaching $40 billion. So how realistic is this $100 billion figure today? And have tariffs and war made it harder to reach that goal?
Well, I think you already have the good numbers. I think when Presidents Erdogan and Trump set that goal of $100 billion a few years ago, a number of people said, how are we going to get there? The good news is we're making real progress on this. When you take into account our bilateral goods trade and our bilateral services trade, we're pushing about $50 billion at this point. So we're well towards halfway towards that goal. But I think the ambition that our presidents have put forward is something that we see not only in trade, but also in investment. My colleague Emre had pointed that out as well. With 2,400 American companies already operating here in Turkey, they are taking Turkey as a regional platform for doing business not only in Turkey, but across Caucasus, Central Asia, and others. And I think that just shows the partnership that American and Turkish companies have. And increasingly, we're seeing it in investment. And we'll talk, I think, a bit later about our Select USA Summit, where we brought back a number of Turkish investors. So we see that exchange of people, of ideas, of Turkish companies coming to the United States, of American companies operating here. So I think we're well on the way towards that goal.
Mr. Karter, I would like to pose a similar question to you as well. You've previously actually mentioned that at the current pace, the two nations could reach this 100 billion target by 2030. But you said this before the Iran war started. Do you still hold the same view, or have you pushed back the deadline?
I do. I think one thing propels trade is actually through investment. And obviously, our main mission as AmCham Türkiye, as an umbrella organization, is to drive and grow U.S. investments into Turkey and also to support the bilateral trade both ways. There is also a growing trend that the Turkish entrepreneurs and big, large conglomerates are finding out ways to invest into U.S. Lately, in the last, I think, 10 years, that number has outgrown into $13.5–14 billion already. So I think this is going to be, when Michael Bey mentioned, when it is announced in the first place, it was an aspiration. It's not an aspiration anymore. I think it's a working agenda for everyone. We're halfway there. Hopefully, within before the next decade ends, I think we're gonna reach $100 billion. Mm-hmm.
So now let's talk business and investment a little bit. Counsel General, you've gave a little information about this, but let's talk about it in detail. How strong is the Turkish investment in the United States today? How could you describe Turkish companies' appetite for investing in the U.S.? And this also brings us to, as you mentioned, Select USA Investment Summit. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. And I think that the key element here is that Turkish companies are increasingly looking internationally. They're global players. They're players not only in this domestic market, not only in the region, but they're looking so abroad. And I think when we talk with Turkish companies here, they're seeing the investment opportunities in the United States. We have some of the best opportunities, strong legal framework, deep capital markets, and a growing need in our energy, construction, and other sectors as well. And so in that regard, we wanted to put all of these great ideas into practice. And just recently, I was really honored to lead a delegation of 33 Turkish companies drawn from all sectors, small, medium, large firms, back to our Select USA Investment Summit. And over 3 days in May, I would say we had hundreds of meetings with a number of state representatives, everywhere from Alaska to Florida, from Maine to California, where they were talking about the incentives that they offered for Turkish investment. And what I think is, to kind of follow on Emre Bey's element, is that when you have that investment, you're having companies work together, you're having people-to-people exchanges, you're having changes of goods technology, not only from the United States to Turkey, but the innovative Turkish companies that are bringing ideas to the United States to grow them, scale them, and fund them for the future.
Mm-hmm. So we've just talked about Turkish companies investing in the U.S. Now let's flip this around. And so you are in constant contact with American companies operating in Turkey. How large is this footprint today? And are new companies entering the Turkish market this year?
They do. And I think there are some secular trends who's basically, from a bigger picture perspective, driving this investment flow. I think digitization is, has been in our, part of our life in the last decade or so, more highlighted. But now there's no day passes without mentioning or making plans around AI and data centers. And when you talk about data centers, I think you need to add the energy piece into it and the sustainability piece. So we would like to basically highlight Turkey's importance to the U.S. investors and make the U.S. technology and the U.S. investments growing under this chapter here. So when we look at historically, obviously the Turkish American presence in the country has been through fast-moving consumer products. but many more so into logistics, aviation, and finance, banking, where I represent as a member company. But I think in the next 3 to 5 years, wherever digital meets because what Turkey presents is also a very strong domestic market, and still young. And growing, and its consuming habits is changing towards digital. So wherever the digital meets the public masses, I think it will attract investment. And I think we are seeing this year has been quite active into that. I think we will see more of a finance, technology, and mobility. But it's all about digital investments pouring into the country.
Tanem, if I could just intervene here, because I think Emre brings up some great points. I think the private sector has such a great vision of how things should be. So the trade and the investment that got us to $45, $48, $50 billion is not necessarily the mix that's going to get us to $100 billion. And I think Emre brings up an excellent point, is that digitalization, information technologies, AI are going to really be the drivers of some of this relationship. And we're super pleased to have such an excellent and cooperative relationship with AmCham Türkiye. They are the voice of American business here, and we partner with them closely. It's an ideal public-private partnership where we get the ideas and the energy of the private sector and then try to ensure that the conditions for their environment and that predictability that is so important that we can work together as governments.
So for the remainder of the year, will we be hearing any new U.S. companies joining the Turkish market? And if yes, I think you said yes to that in my previous question. Possible.
Let me leave it there.
Yeah. Okay. And which sectors are we talking about here?
Again, where the digital meets the consumption, I think it will be very, very attractive. Okay. And particularly markets like Turkey. And then I think when the geopolitics are going to be faring clearer, I should say. And then there will be some more infrastructure type of related to energy and sustainability. This is what I think in the cards.
So I want to ask this next question to both of you. How do American businesses view Turkey today? Has the war in the region affected the investor sentiment? When you speak to American executives, what is the number one question that they ask about Turkey? Let's start with you, Consul General.
Terrific. Great question. I think I'm going to take it back to what Emre said, is that a lot of companies here, American and others, but specifically the American executives we talk about their long-term commitment to Turkey as a market. As Emre has said, some companies have been operating here for decades, and they're looking at the long-term play here. And they see Turkey not only for its market of 90 million, but also its $1.5 trillion economy as a place that it can do business. And looking forward, as I said before, looking at the regional play in regional markets around there, having that American-Turkish partnership, the ability of Turkish engineering, procurement, and construction firms working together with American technology firms and finance can do real business all throughout that. So I think right now, obviously, as I said before, with over 2,000 companies in the market, it's a long-term perspective that they have.
And if I were to ask you, what's the number one question that they ask about Turkey? What would you say when it comes to American executives when you speak with them? What's the most common thing that you hear from them in terms of a question?
They're looking at opportunities about how they can grow, how they see the economy, and how they see the macroeconomic developments with that, again, that long-term view about how they want to see to grow investment, to grow employment, and to grow the opportunities and innovation they see here.
And Mr. Karter, what about you? What's the number one question that you hear from American executives when you speak about Turkey?
I think, look, conflict and disruption is nothing new to this region, fortunately or unfortunately. And this is, I think, the one aspect that we haven't yet discussed, but I will bring it over, and the talent piece. And how Turkish professionals or international talent who has built experience in Turkey so far is becoming very valuable. So I think to answer your question is what they're asking the multinationals and reevaluating their options in emerging markets. They're looking for how resilient is the talent, how the ability to maneuver, and on all these, in the midst of all this conflicts and disruption, and what is the track record so far. And at the beginning we've discussed about the all sorts of what makes the country as I think if you ask me just one thing, it's its location and the accessibility and the connectivity to the rest of the world. And we're sitting here in about 4 hours radius flight, and you're reaching 1/3 of the world's GDP. And the airport is the largest airport this year, and it hits I think the busiest airport in Europe, and has direct access to 300 locations in the world, has seaways and railways and land routes. So this really makes, I think, what makes Turkey is standing out amongst all its peers in the emerging markets. Mm-hmm. So that's what basically the investors are looking for nowadays, and they're again reevaluating, redistributing their investment options because when a multinational takes a view, they take a 7 to 10 years view on any line that you put, they put, and any new investments, any additional or greenfield. So it's all about I think this. What am I going to do in this next 10 years, mm-hmm. and how a country like Turkey is going to be sustainable in my operations. That's what it's sort of is the center stage of the discussion nowadays.
Yeah. And we're also looking ahead to an important visit in July when President Trump is expected to visit Turkey for the NATO summit. If I'm not wrong, I think it's going to be his first state visit officially to Turkey. So, and given the strong relationship between the two leaders, what kind of outcomes should we expect from this visit?
Yeah, well, I think that obviously President Trump, and I know our ambassador has said this on many occasions, views Turkey's partnership and alliance as critical to NATO and critical to this summit. So I know certainly we're looking forward to a successful summit. I know that there's a lot of interest. Obviously, some of the lines in growing our industrial cooperation and the like throughout the alliance. So I think we're looking forward to a very successful summit coming up.
And do you think could Turkey's potential return to the F-35 program could become a topic of discussion in this visit?
Well, I know President Trump, views Turkey as a very important ally and as an important NATO ally as well. And I think our legal restrictions have already been made very clear on this. And I just will return you to those statements that have already been made on that. And
Mr. Karter, what are your expectations for the summit?
Well, I think the first term of the President Trump, they have agreed this very challenging, at the time it was very challenging, this $100 billion target we discussed. As a business community leader who's representing the American business in the country, I'm expecting something in tune that is really supporting this vision and hopefully make bilateral investment, bilateral trade grow for more and takes its own. It's one aspect in the bilateral relationships, but we'll make it more prominent, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be important for the bilateral relations as well, this visit. Consul General, on a different note, I would like to ask you this. So Turkish citizens have been going through a difficult period regarding visas and appointments in general. Regarding U.S. visas, people often talk about how visa appointments are being scheduled far into the future. Are there going to be any changes or improvements on this matter?
Yeah, I thank you very much. It's very important that we have those people-to-people and business-to-business exchanges. And I know this is something that Ambassador Barak and his team are feel this is super important. In many cases, we've been able to reduce the wait times. We've added capacity in order to ensure that we have very strong, robust controls on our visa process, while also ensuring that that important people-to-people and business-to-business exchange continues. And I know we do everything here in our consulate to ensure that we can get timely appointments. The good news is that thanks to Turkish Airlines, there are over 14 direct connections with the United States, 170 flights every week between Turkey and the United States, and we're working hard to keep up with that great demand where Turkish companies and Turkish citizens coming to the United States, and we look forward to that exchange.
Also, on the same note, there are recent reports that State Department may introduce a $750 premium expedited visa service this week, and that's according to Associated Press. What do you think of this report, this article? Is this program actually moving forward? What can you tell us about this?
I'm aware of the report. I don't have any specific guidance on it yet, but I'm sure my team will be happy to provide that information when it's ready.
All right. Well, as a final takeaway for our viewers, I want to ask this to both of you. What is the single development in U.S.-Turkey economic relations that investors and businesses should keep an eye on for the upcoming period, for the near future? Who would like to start?
One thing I would say, again, I think world is a different place than 10 or 15 years ago. I think, we've seen all sorts of all this in the disruptions, including a health crisis, I think, where places like Turkey, which again, came out very, very resilient. I think when the time comes and for the next round of investment decisions made, I think this resilience part of the countries and uninterrupted, almost as you may remember, there wasn't a day missed during the pandemic manufacturing in Turkey. So I would be expecting this piece will be very, very important in making up the decisions and Turkey has been getting its, I think, when you look into the world GDP, Turkey represents a 1%, and when you look into the world FDI, I think we're almost there, but I think we should be aspiring to double it and make, I think, competing countries getting its fair share. So that's how I see it.
Council General.
Yeah, well, I would say that, you're going to see a sort of a parade of things that are moving forward. I think that the great communication and the great collaboration between our two leaders and our two capitals are very seen. Our ambassador is working so hard on the bilateral relationship and how we work together in the area. You had mentioned the NATO summit. That's a very important milestone of how we're working together as partners, not only bilaterally, but multilaterally through NATO. But on the business side, I think we see more companies looking here. As you know, through our Select USA Investment Summit, we're going to be recruiting another delegation coming up. We're going to be bringing American states to Turkey in the early part of 2027 to look at further companies to, again, increase that amount of investment from Turkey to the United States. And I know that our consulate and, through our other partner organizations, including the AmCham Türkiye, will be having a number of events across all sectors to encourage that level of bilateral trade and investment.
Well, before I let you go, so the World Cup is on everyone's radar. Council General, will you be tuning in? Who's your favorite team?
Well, I think I have a favorite team, and that is the USA. I'm so glad that we're playing on June 25th there, June 26th here. It's going to be a great match, right, Emre?
Yeah.
Emre Bey?
5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. And do you give Turkey a fighting chance?
I give Turkey more than a fighting chance. I think it's going to be great. But I think when Turkey and the United States play together, we both win.
Yeah. Mr. Karter, what about you?
Look, I was in year 2002. We all remember how Turkey came out very, very successful and make the whole nation, chanting and very, very, I think, these are the times that we really, really celebrate successes. And I really wish well for the U.S. team, but but I think Turkey. I think this is generationally, it's a very strong team, and not only in this World Cup, but I think several World Cups ahead of us, Turkey will hopefully do very well.
hopefully. Consul General, Mr. Karter, thank you so much for joining our program.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great
so much.
to be here.